In Los Angeles, a city of dreams and decadence, the line between reality and illusion often blurs. On the surface, Alex Chen had it all: wealth, a beautiful family, and a successful business. But beneath this perfect image, a dangerous secret was about to tear everything apart. For Alex, it started as a harmless flirtation, an escape from the pressure of his double life. But what began as a hidden affair with 18-year-old Lily Patel soon spiraled into something far more destructive. In a world where appearances are everything, Alex's dark secret could cost him more than just his reputation. What happens when the perfect life is shattered by a betrayal so deep that no one can ever go back to the way things were? In the heart of the city, where luxury and excess meet, Alex's affair with Lily seemed like an innocent indulgence at first. He was captivated by her youth and beauty, and she was drawn to his wealth and sophistication. But as their secret meetings grew more intense, so did the consequences. Emily Chen, Alex's devoted wife, had no idea her world was about to crumble. She believed in the facade Alex carefully maintained, never suspecting the storm brewing in the shadows. But when the truth comes to light, it would tear apart not just their marriage, but everything Alex had worked for. What lengths will Alex go to in order to keep his perfect life intact? And will he realize too late that the price of his lies is more than he can afford? Alex Chen had the life many could only dream of. At 35, he was a successful businessman with a thriving company, a beautiful home in Beverly Hills, and a loving family. To anyone who knew him, Alex was the epitome of success, charismatic, polished, and respected. His wife, Emily, was supportive and kind, a perfect partner in the eyes of their friends and family. They had 2 children, and from the outside, their life seemed perfect. But perfection has a way of hiding the cracks. Alex had become a man who thrived on admiration, and that wasn't just limited to his family. It was the admiration of others that fed his ego, and that's where the temptation started. Alex wasn't one to indulge in many vices, but there was something magnetic about Lily Patel. Lily, only 18, was fresh out of high school and full of dreams. Her goal was to become a successful model, and she worked hard to make that dream a reality. With her long, dark hair and bright eyes, Lily had beauty that stopped people in their tracks. She knew how to use it to her advantage, but beneath her alluring exterior, she was naive and hungry for validation. The two met at a charity event in Beverly Hills, a glamorous evening where the city's elite came together to show off their wealth while pretending to care about the causes they supported. Lily was there with friends, feeling out of place in the sea of power players and influential figures. That was when Alex noticed her. He was immediately taken by her youth, her beauty, and her innocence. She, on the other hand, couldn't help but admire his world, the world of success, luxury, and promises of something more. It was at that moment that the seed was planted, a dangerous attraction, both thrilling and forbidden. Alex began spending more time with Lily, taking her out to fancy dinners and buying her gifts, gestures that made her feel special. Meanwhile, he continued to live his life as though nothing had changed. He still came home to Emily, still played the role of the devoted father. But his secret life with Lily was becoming more and more tempting. The thrill of the affair added an edge to his otherwise predictable existence. Do you think Alex's secrets will come to light? Drop your thoughts below. As the days passed, the affair between Alex and Lily grew stronger, and so did their need for secrecy. Alex found himself becoming more engrossed in their time together, increasingly willing to blur the lines between his public life and private indulgences. He spent hours texting her, making plans to see her in between business meetings and family obligations. He justified it to himself. This was harmless, just a fling, a distraction from the pressures of his daily life. After all, Emily would never suspect, but Lily wasn't as naive as she seemed. She began to crave more than just occasional dates and whispered promises. Her feelings for Alex deepened, and her aspirations of becoming a model turned into something else, a desire for something more permanent, something that would elevate her into his world. She was swept up in the allure of Alex's wealth, the lavish dinners, the shopping sprees, and the feeling that, for once, she was special. But the reality of their situation was starting to weigh on her. For Alex, the affair had become an escape, a temporary fix for the loneliness he sometimes felt at home. He was beginning to realize that despite his outward success, something was missing in his marriage. But at the same time, he couldn't help but feel trapped. The pressure of his double life was taking its toll, and though he didn't want to admit it, his feelings for Lily were beginning to conflict with his desire to keep his family intact. Back at home, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She noticed the changes in Alex, the late nights, the distracted conversations, the sudden disappearances, but she had no proof, and Alex was always quick to dismiss her concerns. The tension between them grew, but Emily, ever the optimist, convinced herself that it was just the stress of work and the pressures of family life. As the affair continued, so did the lies. And as every lie built on the next, Alex's world grew smaller, his secrets harder to keep. But for now, everything seemed manageable. After all, what was one more night with Lily? As weeks passed, the affair between Alex and Lily took on a life of its own. What had started as a casual escape for Alex soon became a web of emotional entanglements. Lily, once naive and eager to experience the thrills of wealth and attention, began to develop deeper feelings for him. She was no longer content with the occasional rendezvous or expensive gifts. She craved more. She wanted Alex's commitment, his time, and his promises of a future together. Alex, who had initially seen this as a distraction, found himself more and more torn. His feelings for Lily were undeniably real, but they clashed with the life he had built with Emily. He had spent years constructing the perfect family image, one that was now beginning to show signs of cracking. The guilt he felt for betraying Emily began to chip away at him, but he couldn't bring himself to end things with Lily. He enjoyed the rush of attention, the freedom from the responsibilities of family life. Still, the weight of his deception was starting to wear him down. Lily, sensing his hesitation, began to demand more. She needed reassurance that their love was real, that Alex would leave his wife for her. Her emotional dependence on him grew, and with it, her resentment when Alex couldn't fully provide the commitment she wanted. She had fallen for him deeply, perhaps too deeply, and the idea of being abandoned was unbearable. At home, the tension between Alex and Emily grew palpable. Emily was an intuitive woman, and while she never suspected the full extent of Alex's betrayal, she couldn't ignore the small inconsistencies in his behavior. He had become increasingly distant, distracted, forgetful, and occasionally short with her. There were late nights at the office, trips that seemed unnecessary, and long stretches of silence between them. At first, she chalked it up to stress, but over time those excuses didn't feel as convincing. Emily began to wonder if something was wrong, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Her suspicions nagged at her. Was it just her imagination, or had Alex really changed? The cracks in their relationship were starting to show, and with each passing day the pressure mounted. Could you forgive a betrayal like Alex's? Let us know in the comments. The strain of balancing two lives was beginning to take its toll on Alex. His ability to juggle the demands of his marriage and the allure of his affair with Lily was growing weaker by the day. He found himself constantly on edge, checking his phone to make sure Emily hadn't seen any suspicious messages, or to make sure Lily hadn't left him a voicemail filled with accusations. Each interaction with one felt like a betrayal to the other, and as much as he tried to maintain control, the guilt and anxiety were starting to overwhelm him. Lily, meanwhile, was becoming more vocal about her dissatisfaction. She demanded more of Alex's attention, more of his time. The lavish gifts no longer seemed like enough to her. She wanted him to leave Emily, to build a life with her. She started making threats. If Alex didn't commit, she'd tell Emily everything. But it wasn't just a plea for attention, it was desperation. Lily felt vulnerable, caught in a whirlwind of emotions that she couldn't control. Her fantasies of a future with Alex had become an obsession. Alex had no idea how to calm her down. He couldn't afford to let her destroy his family, but he also couldn't bear to lose the connection they had. Every conversation with Lily felt like walking on a tightrope. He'd promised her he was going to leave Emily, but deep down, he knew that wasn't an option. At least not yet. His children, his reputation, everything he had worked for would be shattered if he followed through on that promise. And yet, the more he tried to put distance between them, the more Lily's demands grew. At home, Emily's suspicions were reaching a boiling point. She began to dig deeper, starting with his phone records, noticing unfamiliar names popping up on his contacts. She was no longer content with vague excuses. The subtle changes in Alex's demeanor, his increased irritability, his unexplained absences, were now impossible to ignore. She was starting to feel the weight of something far more serious looming over them. Could she really trust him anymore? The moment Emily picked up Alex's phone, everything changed. It wasn't a planned act of snooping, just a casual glance while it buzzed on the nightstand. But what she saw froze her blood cold. A message from a contact saved only as L lit up the screen. The words were short, but they screamed betrayal. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" Her heart dropped. She waited until Alex came out of the shower, standing there in silence, the phone clenched tightly in her fist. "Who's L?" she asked, her voice calm but trembling. Alex, caught off guard and still dripping from the steam, froze. His eyes darted toward the phone, and in that instant Emily saw the truth written all over his face before he even spoke a word. He tried to lie, said it was a coworker, a joke, a misunderstanding, but Emily wasn't buying it. She pressed harder, her tone shifting from confusion to fury. "I want the truth, Alex. Now." Cornered and exhausted from months of deception, Alex finally broke down. "Her name is Lily," he admitted. "It started a few months ago. I didn't mean for it to happen." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the man she had built a life with, shared 2 children with, and for a moment couldn't recognize him. He rambled through his justifications, how he'd been stressed, how Lily made him feel alive again, how it was never supposed to go this far. But each word only made it worse. With every sentence, Alex buried himself deeper, the illusion of their perfect marriage unraveling before their eyes. Emily's pain turned to rage. "You had everything," she shouted. "A family, a wife who loved you, and you threw it away. For what? A teenager who doesn't even know who she is yet?" She threatened to leave, to take the kids, to destroy the life they had built. And Alex, shaken and overwhelmed, realized just how much he had to lose. But it was too late for regret to fix anything. News of the confrontation didn't stay confined to their bedroom walls. Emily, devastated and unable to mask her pain, began confiding in a close friend. Within days, whispers circulated through their circle. People who once admired Alex's life now viewed him with quiet judgment. Meanwhile, Lily was waiting. Alex hadn't contacted her since the night Emily discovered the truth. Days passed, and her texts went unanswered. Each hour without a reply tightened the knot in her chest. She replayed every memory, every compliment, every promise he made, now questioning whether any of it was ever real. When Alex finally showed up at her apartment, he wasn't the same man who once brought her flowers and whispered about Paris getaways. He looked drained, distant, determined. "I can't see you anymore," he told her bluntly. "My family, my kids, they need me. I have to fix what I broke." Lily's eyes welled up instantly. "So that's it?" she asked, voice shaking. "You get to walk away, and I'm just—" "What? A mistake?" Alex tried to calm her, insisting it wasn't about blame. But Lily felt discarded, like a secret he was now desperate to erase. She shouted, called him a coward, said she gave up everything to be with him, her innocence, her dreams, her peace of mind. She asked if he ever really loved her. Alex didn't answer. His silence said enough, and with that, he walked out the door. Back home, the atmosphere was suffocating. Emily was silent but cold, setting boundaries and locking herself emotionally behind invisible walls. Their children noticed the change but didn't understand why. Alex moved into the guest room. Every night he stared at the ceiling, wondering how he let it get this far. He had lost Lily, but worse, he was losing Emily, the only person who had ever truly believed in him. And across the city, Lily sat alone in her apartment. Her world, once full of color and excitement, now felt heavy and dark. She thought about their moments together, the lies she had been fed, the reality she now had to live with. Just when Alex thought things couldn't get worse, Lily walked into his office, and not quietly. It was mid-morning. Meetings were running back to back. His staff, always efficient and composed, suddenly froze as Lily stormed past the reception desk, eyes burning with betrayal and heartbreak. "You think you can ignore me like I'm nothing?" she shouted, voice echoing across the polished lobby. Heads turned, clients stared, phones stopped ringing. Alex rushed out of a conference room, face pale. He tried to usher her into a private space, but she refused. "I gave you everything and you threw me away," she cried. "You promised me a future, Alex," people murmured. Some started recording, others exchanged shocked glances. It didn't take long for the incident to hit the social media. One post turned into dozens. Within hours, the videos were everywhere. Comments followed. Some accused Alex of preying on a teenager. Others ridiculed him. Most were cruel. The story moved fast, faster than Alex could contain it. By the end of the day, his inbox was flooded. Not with business inquiries, but with canceled contracts. Clients pulled out of deals, citing reputational concerns. Partners distanced themselves. Even his own staff avoided eye contact. What once was a thriving, respected company was now a business under fire. Meanwhile, Emily had reached her breaking point. She packed a bag, took the kids, and moved in with her sister. She didn't yell or fight, she just left. The silence was worse than any argument. She needed space to think, to breathe, to protect her children from the chaos. The whispers at school, the neighbors' side glances, the judgment she hadn't asked for, it was too much. At night, Emily lay awake wondering how much of it had been a lie. The vacations, the anniversary dinners, the way Alex had once looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. Had he always been capable of this? Or had something inside him changed? And while Emily tried to shield her children from the noise, Alex sat in his office, blinds closed, reputation in ruins. The media didn't take long to latch on to the scandal. Local outlets first picked it up as gossip. Prominent LA businessman caught in love triangle with teen model. But soon the tone shifted. Editorials questioned the ethics of Alex's relationship with someone so young. Comment sections exploded with speculation and judgment. And just like that, his private shame became a public obsession. Alex couldn't open his phone without seeing his name plastered across news feeds. Lily's photos were everywhere. Smiling, posing, caught in mid-sob outside his office. Her face was now linked to his downfall. He tried damage control, released a public statement. Mistakes were made, I take full responsibility. But the words rang hollow. The damage was done. Lily, meanwhile, found herself thrust into a world she hadn't asked for. Strangers messaged her, some offering sympathy, others slinging cruel insults. Her social media exploded with both support and harassment. Brands she hoped to work with backed away. Agencies stopped returning her calls. Her modeling dreams, once so close, slipped further out of reach. She felt humiliated, exposed, used. And the one person she thought cared for her had ghosted her entirely. Alex stopped answering her texts, stopped returning calls. His silence cut deeper than any headline. Emily, despite her pain, kept her focus on the kids. They didn't understand the full story, but they saw the tension, the sudden move, the quiet tears behind closed doors. She started therapy, not for Alex, but for herself. To rebuild, to find clarity. One night, Alex called her. She didn't pick up. He tried again, still no answer. Eventually, he left a voicemail, long, rambling, full of regret. I never meant to hurt you. I just got lost. I don't even know who I am anymore. But Emily didn't need an apology. She needed peace. And Lily? She was left staring at her bedroom ceiling, wondering how one decision, one man, had turned her world upside down. The fairy tale she'd once believed in had collapsed into a nightmare. All three lives, Alex's, Emily's, and Lily's, were now caught in a storm none of them saw coming. In the weeks following the public fallout, Lily disappeared from the spotlight. No more social media posts, no interviews, no public statements, just silence. But behind closed doors her world was in chaos. The humiliation of being paraded in tabloids, abandoned by Alex, and cut off from the only emotional support she'd clung to, left her spiraling into despair. Every day felt like a blur. She barely ate, barely slept. The bright, ambitious girl who once dreamed of modeling had vanished beneath a heavy fog of shame and hopelessness. Alone in her apartment one night, with no one answering her calls and nothing but headlines mocking her decisions, Lily broke. She wrote a short message, more of a whisper than a cry for help. It was meant for Alex. You said you'd never leave me. I gave you everything. Then she swallowed a handful of pills and laid down, unsure if she wanted to be saved. Thankfully, a concerned neighbor, who hadn't seen her in days, knocked on her door. When no one answered, they called the building manager. Moments later, paramedics rushed Lily to the hospital. She survived, but barely. The physical damage healed in time. The emotional wounds, however, ran far deeper. Doctors diagnosed her with acute trauma. She barely spoke during her recovery. Her parents flew in, devastated. They hadn't even known about Alex until the news broke. Now, they sat by their daughter's bedside, piecing together the wreckage she'd hidden so well. The glossy dream of love and glamour had left her scarred and forgotten. While Lily lay in a hospital bed, numb and broken, Alex sat alone in his once impressive corner office, now half empty. Several clients had pulled out. His team avoided eye contact. His phone, once a source of deals and praise, was now mostly silent. The fallout wasn't just professional, it was personal. Emily had taken the kids and moved in with her sister. She wasn't returning his calls. His daughter, barely old enough to understand the full truth, asked him why Mommy cried so much. His son wouldn't even look at him. And now the news of Lily's overdose hit him like a brick. Guilt swept over him in waves, suffocating and endless. He stared at the message she'd sent, just one line, short and painful. He'd read it 100 times, and it never hurt any less. "You said you'd never leave me. I gave you everything." He had destroyed everything, his family, his reputation, and now, nearly a young girl's life. No amount of money, no public statement, no behind-the-scenes PR cleanup could fix this. He thought back to the first time he saw Lily at the charity gala, how carefree and vibrant she'd looked. He'd chased that feeling, thinking it would patch the growing hole inside him. But now, all he saw was devastation, and he had no one to blame but himself. Emily's silence wasn't just about rage anymore. It was disappointment, sadness, a realization that the man she'd loved for over a decade no longer existed. Alex finally understood. Affairs don't stay hidden forever. Lies rot everything they touch. And the cost? Sometimes it's more than you can live with. What do you think of Lily's decision? Was it the breaking point she couldn't handle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Months had passed, but the dust never truly settled. Alex's once flourishing business stood on shaky ground. Contracts vanished. Investors distanced themselves. His name, once respected, had become a cautionary tale whispered behind closed doors in boardrooms and networking events. Attempts to salvage what was left fell flat. The brand he had spent years building now carried a stain he couldn't scrub away. At home, there was nothing to return to. Emily filed for divorce. Her lawyers were firm, her voice colder than he remembered. The love they'd shared had been replaced with guarded silence and legal documents. The children, now living full-time with Emily, visited only when required. The house felt like a museum of better times. A photo here, a toy there, each a painful reminder of what he'd thrown away. Alex tried to apologize, to make amends. But with every step forward, he realized it was too late. The damage wasn't something flowers or words could fix. His betrayal had carved wounds too deep to ignore. Meanwhile, Lily was still recovering, not just physically but emotionally. Her face no longer carried the same brightness it once did. Therapy sessions helped her process the chaos, but she remained guarded. Her trust in people, in promises in herself, had been shaken. The modeling dream she once spoke of with excitement now felt distant. Still, she pushed forward. Slowly, painfully, determined to reclaim some sense of normalcy. She found solace in journaling, in reconnecting with her family, in trying to understand how things had spiraled so far out of control. Both Alex and Lily had been drawn to a fantasy, one born out of ego, desire, and loneliness. But the real world doesn't spare those who chase shadows. It makes them pay. In the end, the affair didn't just cost them their relationship. It cost them their peace, their reputations, their futures. Secrets never stay buried. They fester, infect, and eventually explode. In your opinion, what was the greatest lesson from this tragic story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Secrets have a way of whispering louder than the truth. What starts as a quiet lie, a hidden message, or a stolen moment can grow into a storm that tears through everything in its path. Alex Chen thought he could manage both lives, keep the affair hidden, maintain the illusion of the perfect husband, and still indulge in temptation. But deception doesn't come with boundaries. It spreads, it infects, and eventually it demands a price. He lost his marriage, his reputation, and the respect of his children. Emily, once the woman who stood beside him through everything, now only saw a stranger. Lily, who once admired him, was left emotionally shattered. And Alex was left alone, surrounded by the wreckage of his choices. Lies may offer temporary comfort, but the damage they leave behind is long-lasting. The truth, no matter how painful, is always the better path. Because once trust is broken, it rarely returns in the same shape. This wasn't just a story about infidelity. It was a story about consequences, about how one selfish decision can ripple outward and pull everyone under.